frankly, I really don't want to bug the guy. I do have a heart. I don't like to cause pain or upset people or anything like that. Although, what I can tell you about Darren was living life rather dangerously, in my opinion. We know that he was mixed up with a little bit of the drug world.
Now, Rich says, we know that he was a little bit mixed up with the drug world. What makes you say that? Because the drugs were found in Darlie and Darren's house, not just Darren's. There were so many pills that they took out of there, it was ridiculous. So what makes you think that Darren was mixed up in the drug world? Why are you saying that?
We do know that he was running out of money.
Now, the supporters have always long said that they were fine. They still to this day say they were fine. The money wasn't the motivation. They weren't running out of money. They had this and that.
There clearly, in my opinion, there's evidence that there was a lot of marital issues going on.
Yep. He says there was evidence that there was a lot of marital issues going on, but Darlie denied that on the stand.
As a matter of fact, the night of the murders, which would have been, later in the evening, 9, 10, 11 o'clock, somewhere in that time range, Darlie had asked Darren for a separation and or divorce. It was one of the two. It hasn't really ever been clarified, but...
Well, Darren said it was a separation, but the thing of it is, Rich knows that in their first initial statement, that neither one of them mentioned the argument or the divorce. Neither one of them. They left that out. Why? Why would they leave that out? That the parents of two murdered kids an hour before they were murdered were arguing and talking about a divorce?
It was either a separation or a divorce, and of course,
the affidavit says separation.
That can really send shockwaves. So there clearly was marital problems.
Yeah, remember, Darlie says there wasn't. Rich says there clearly was. Most supporters say there wasn't. Rich said clearly there was.
There was clearly monetary problems.
And most supporters say that they had all the money in the world. They weren't doing fine. Darren even said he was doing fine.
And there were definitely some issues in the house.
Definitely some issues in the house. Definitely some issues in the house. That's why they left out that there was a huge argument that night. They left it out in the first reports.
There's no question about it.
He seems kind of shady. He had like this insurance scam, allegedly.
Yeah. He actually signed an affidavit stating that he was talking with people about doing a robbery of his home and hiding away his valuables, collecting the insurance money, and then getting those valuables back. Well,
okay, he's correct. And this is why you know that that's all bullshit. All right. Darren says he spoke to multiple people about robbing his home. Multiple people. Right. And it would seem to me like one of those people that he spoke to, if there was an intruder, it would be one of those people. Right. That's logical to think that. They want you to think that. But the bottom line is the family wants to jump all over people that are on the internet saying, hey, this, you're not right, blah, blah, blah. But none of them has ever jumped on Darren and demanded that he release the names of those people, when and where he talked to them. He's never said the names of those people. And he's never been pushed to, right? Because if the family went to pushing him to say the names, then he'd have to make up a name. Because he never talked to anybody about robbing his home. He'd have to make up a name, and then they would go question that person. The family knows it too. If it was me, that's where I'd be stuck at. If it was my family, I'd be like, you ask these fucking multiple people? No, I want to know who the fuck it is, dude. I want to know who you asked. Or I'm going to kick your fucking ass. But they know better. See? They know better. They'd rather get on here and jump on Pam Collins or me or somebody else than to get all over Darren about those people that he asked. And that's what they wanted to make it seem like. See, Darren gave enough information in that affidavit that he could take a little bit of the doubt, put a little bit of doubt on Darlie. But nothing he said in that affidavit was illegal. It's not illegal to ask people to break in your home for insurance scam unless it happened. And then it went wrong. And 2 of your kids got killed. Anyways.
That's flat out fraud, and that's also a felony. But he signed an affidavit to it stating.
Rich, no. Just asking people to rob your home is not a crime. It's not fraud. It's not a felony. It's not even a crime. I can say, hey, Rich, I got this truck out here, would you steal it and turn it in for insurance money for me? I'll turn it in. That's not a crime unless you actually steal it. Then it's a crime. Know your law, buddy.
He had it in plan, but he said he never hired anybody to do it. But here's something I find interesting. Darren has never named anybody that he has talked to about that.
That's where he got that from me.
The only person that's really come forward about it was Darlie Lynn's stepfather. He said he suddenly remembered that.
Suddenly remembered it. He suddenly remembered that shit around appeal time. Robbie Key. He put an affidavit, said he had a conversation about breaking into his house with Darren. Now, think about it like this. What kind of shady ass dad goes to their father-in-law, who's also shady, and asks to break into a home? What made him think that Robbie Key would help him? What made him think that it was a good thing to go ask his father-in-law? If I went to my father-in-law and say, "Hey, man, you help me break in my house," he would tell his daughters, like, "Get the fuck away from that guy." It doesn't make sense. It just doesn't. It's all the whole insurance thing and both those affidavits. That was a scam to get the public to think that there could be somebody else.
Darren had come to him about an insurance scheme. So, but he's never. But other than that, I mean, Darren's never named anybody he's talked to.
And the family has never pressured him to. Let's not say that Darren's never named him. And the family's never pressured him to. Never. They should be all over his ass instead of sitting on Facebook and YouTube and picking at everybody else. Because to me, if there was an intruder, the answer is in the multiple fucking people that he asked. That's the answer. Or are you guys that dumb? All right? Because there was no intruder. And you guys know it. That's why you don't waste your time with it.
I don't remember where I saw that, but they were interviewing Darren. And he was older in this interview, so it had to have been a couple years ago. But he said that Darlie's defense team concocted that story and he just signed the affidavit.
Yep. Thank you, CC. And see, I know CC. What she's talking about is on the last defense. And she's talking about the attorneys. And I believe one of those attorneys was the husband of Kathy Cruz, which wrote the Dateline Purgatory. I can't prove that. He said the only reason he did that is because, the attorneys put it in front of him, showed him a piece of paper, and he signed it. And he ends it with, "I did it for Darlie. I did it for Darlie." He's trying to get, drum up some reasonable doubt that doesn't exist. He's trying to help her by making up this fake story about, and it's fake. It's fake because the family has not demanded. Look how nasty they are to me or Pam or somebody over a comment. And here Darren saying that he asked people to break in his house and it got broke into. They should be wherever he's at. No, motherfucker, you're going to tell these names. The reason it's not happening is because there are no names for him to tell. And they know it.
I mean, he could say whatever he wants.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of evidence proving that happened. As a matter of fact,
There's no evidence proving that he asked multiple people to break in his home, Rich. There's no evidence of it.
Basha, Javel, and Helena, they were actually mother and daughter that were actually employed by the Rotiers. Basha Javel said that she sat right in their living room while they were having a discussion about the insurance fraud.
That's right. And he's getting this from the interview that I had with Basha. Right? Basha said that, they were both, Darlie and Darren, thinking about having this thing done, and they asked her to help. That's one of the damning things in Basha's interview. So he remembers it because that's where it came from.
She said Darlie Lynn knew about it. Darlie Lynn claimed she never knew about it until later years down the road.
Nope. She said she didn't know about it. She said, I found out about things I didn't know about back then. Rich, she said she didn't know about it. But Beja said she did.
But Basha Javel, I mean, there are definitely some strikes against her, and a lot of the stuff that she says is hearsay. Because when she testified at trial, some of the stuff that she has revealed, she did not reveal at trial.
And I asked her that too. I said, why didn't you say any of this on the stand? And she said, well, Darlie was my friend. She said, I really only wanted to answer what I was asked. She didn't want to bury her.
Not even remotely close. So, in my opinion, it's hearsay because there was no oath given during her statement.
Yeah, her statement was on my channel. It's hearsay to him. Let him, and he's right. We can't prove anything Beja said. But let's remember, he says this is hearsay.
But she says she has said a lot of damning things about Darlie. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So it's Helena.
So I heard that Darren took a polygraph test 18 months after Darlie was convicted. I think this private investigator gave it to him, and he failed miserably.
Yeah, that was Brian Pardo. Darren's Aunt Sandy was trying to help because she didn't think that Darlie did this, and she went to.
Darren's Aunt Sandy actually tried to hook Darlie up with another inmate named Phil Adams, who was doing jail time with her while she was down there doing a trial. They were writing back and forth. And once Greg Davis figured out that they were writing back and forth, he confiscated her letters and his letters. And that's how they came up. They saw in there that she was writing about Glenn Mize, because Phil Adams is still doing life in Telford. But I had the opportunity to talk to him.
Brian Pardo is a multi-billionaire. Still is.
Multi-millionaire.
He's had some problems with the IRS here recently, but pretty serious problems with the IRS, I should say. But he investigates cases where he thinks people are innocent, and he does it on his own dime, kind of like what I do. But he's got a whole lot more money than I got, that's for sure. And he had already spent $125,000 of his own money, and he said everything kept coming back to Darren in the case. And finally, he had Darren come in. He's like, listen, I'm not going to put up any more money to find out the truth about this case until I want to do a polygraph on you. He said, if you decline, then I'm not going to go into this case anymore because everything's come back at you. He goes, I would like to exclude you from being a suspect. And Darren agreed, and they did a polygraph test. The polygraph test was given to Darren by a Waco police officer, and
retired.
He failed it miserably. They asked him 4 questions, and he failed 3 out of the 4.
What questions were those, Rich? I know one of them. Let's see if he says it.
The questions were this, are you Darren Rotier? Obviously, it's going to be the first question he passed. But the other Did you have anything to do with it?
Do you know who stabbed your wife and children on June 6th? Now, if he believes in his head that Darlie did that to herself, and he says no, that's going to look like a lie. It's going to go on what your brain thinks. So does he know the name of the person who stabbed his wife and children? If he says no, then his brain's thinking, I know Darlie did it. And he's going to fail. But anyways.
And did you stab your wife and your children?
He did not fail on that one. He did not fail on that one.
So those three questions he failed miserably.
No, he did not fail on did you stab your wife and children, Rich? Mm-mm. He failed on do you know the name of the person that stabbed your wife and children? Yeah, because he does know Darlie's name. He's been married to her.
Failed so miserably that the Waco police officer that administered the lie detector test actually come around the table and said,
He said, I don't know how you can sit there and smile when I'm accusing you, blah, blah. Yeah.
down in front of Darren and tried to get a confession out because he was just that sure that, Darren had done it. And of course, he didn't get any kind of confession out of Darren. He vehemently said, I had nothing to do with this. I don't know what you're talking about.
So if Darren failed this lie detector test that says, did you stab your wife and kids, and he failed no on it, then why is the family not jumping all over him?
Darren later said that he believed that he said, first of all, he gets real nervous around police, which could have thrown the test off. He also said that
anybody that sits down to take a polygraph is automatically going to be nervous.
He believed that it was maybe a little bit of a setup. I don't know about that. Brian Pardo, I've heard him publicly say that he believes that Darren Rotier is a pathological liar and a sociopath.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, Brian Pardo could say whatever he wants because he lost all of his business because he was a fucking con man.
Darlie, this is a theory I've heard, and I kind of go with it. Maybe she could have been drugged that night.
Yeah, well, I mean, they did toxology on her at the hospital, and everything come back negative.
He's right.
But what they tested for in 1996, the amount.
He's going to go on about some chemical in her mouth. I guarantee it. I haven't heard this.
The amount of stuff that they would test for in 2020 is doubled. Some people claim that, she may have been knocked out with xylene.
Nope. I knew he was going to do this. Xylene, and we've had this argument before, right? Xylene has a distinct smell, and xylene would leave burns if it touches your skin. It would leave burns. Look it up.
I'm very familiar with xylene because, I'm a concrete contractor. I work for my brother. Excuse me. And xylene will definitely knock you out. But xylene has the tendency to burn you.
Yeah, good.
Because it's just that strong. It's like a polyurethane times 10, so to speak. Very, very strong. Now, if you recall, when Darlie was in ICU, she actually had burns on the inside of her mouth.
No, she did not, Rich. No, she did not have fucking burns on her mouth, man. See, I've never dug through your stuff to listen. She did not have burns on her mouth. The only ones that noticed any type of thing in her mouth was her and her family. And they gave her ice chips. They gave her ice chips for her mouth. You don't give somebody ice chips that's got burns on them. You don't do that.
And almost like blister burns.
No, Rich, you're sitting here fucking lying.
So bad that they actually had a Q-tip with Vaseline, and Rotier said this, and they were going in between each of her teeth with Vaseline because of those burns were so bad inside of her mouth.
That is an out and out fucking lie. Rich. See, I never wanted to go back and dig through your shit. I never want to do this with you. I got my reasons right now.
Or blisters or whatever you want to call it. I've never seen any pictures of it. It's just something that Cirilla Routier had said.
Oh, so that's hearsay then, right? Do, 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 do.
Wow, that is the first time I've ever heard anything about the inside of her mouth.
Yeah, because it's not true, and you'll never hear that again. That is not true. That is an out and out fucking lie that he just told.
Right, but there were no burns on the outside of her mouth. So something was placed over her mouth.
Rich, how could there be a chemical on a rag placed over someone's mouth and all that chemical get inside of her mouth, but nowhere outside? Everybody, just take a clean, wet rag and wet it down and put it over your face as if you were going to, you want to put this over somebody's face to knock them out. The idea would be to cover their nose and their mouth. I mean, come on, Rich. Jeez, I've never even done this before.
You would think that it would definitely burn the outside.
It would have to. There's no way around it if it happened. She had no burns on the inside either.
Did have problems with the inside.
No, she didn't, Rich. You're lying.
Definitely tell you that.
I could definitely tell you that. Sure, you could definitely tell us that. You could tell us that. She's the good witch Glinda too.
Yeah, I just can't see her slitting her own throat.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest problems I have with her guilt is the fact that she self-inflicted those wounds. For 4 years, I was the activities director at the Next Step in Newcastle, Pennsylvania, which is a social mental rehabilitation center. And I had over 600 clients that I had to deal with. And basically what I do is I would review their cases, and most of them did prison time or jail time. A lot of them were, struggling with drug addiction and horrible, horrible things. I read case files that would probably make you fall off the chair, but during my tenure there, I got to know a lot of different things about people that committed crimes, even almost to this magnitude. I had one client that murdered his girlfriend and then raped and murdered her daughter. And he only got 20 years. I don't know how he got out in 20 years on that. Of course, Pennsylvania is pretty liberal next to Texas. But he got out and, he was on parole. And the scariest thing about it, Cece, is that this man, you could sit and have a conversation with him, and he looked like and he spoke like any man you might see at your local church group.
Wow. So you could do that with Darlie too, right? You could sit down and look at her and talk to her, and you'd think she was a doting mom who loved everything, right? Right, Rich?
Grocery store, bank, or neighbor. That was the scary part.
Yeah, so could that be possible with Darlie Routier as well?
That is scary. You just don't ever know who's psycho and who's not. You could be living next door to a killer.
Yeah, without a question.
Yeah, you could be living right with your own parent and not know it.
Go ahead.
No, actually, I don't know why, but I actually forgot about the subject we were talking about.
You're talking about Darlie Routier?
Well,
so we were talking about slitting her throat.
Oh, yeah. First of all, knife wounds. I've never been stabbed, but I know a lot of people who have been, and it's very painful, very, very painful. And I find it rather interesting how the cut to her neck, come within 2 millimeters of her carotid artery. How did she know when to stop?
Pain. Pain tells you when to stop, right? because just the top of the skin, it'll hurt. But when you start cutting through fat and the carotid sheath, it just nicked it. So the pain would automatically reflex you away from it. That's a natural reaction, which is probably why you have one long mark and then another one. I'm trying to sound so much like Ken Maines right now. I like the way he talks.
Now, some people believe that she murdered those boys and then she was going to kill herself. Well, first of all, I could think of 101 better ways to kill myself other than doing that. I mean, Darlie Lynn, and I mean, excuse me, she was the kind of person.
Now he's going to give us a personality on her, and he doesn't know what she's like outside of prison. He's been to see her.
I'm trying to figure out how I would profile her as a person, to where it's not degrading.
Well, you got to think about it. Shit.
You know, I mean, I think even Darlie Key would agree with me on this. That, you know, when Darlie Lynn, especially when she was convicted when she was 26 years old.
I wonder if he's going to talk about how she looks.
When the murders occurred, and even prior to, she's a pretty naive young gal.
Yeah.
I just, you know, and not just that. If you look at Susan Smith's case, and you look at the Darlie Lynn case, which I think the Susan Smith case helped convict Darlie.
No, they didn't use any of the evidence in the Susan Smith case at Darlie's trial. They didn't use any. Her name wasn't mentioned at her trial. What convicted Darlie was the preponderance of evidence in that house, circumstantial and some physical. That's what convicted Darlie. Susan Smith confessed. Darlie hasn't.
Believe it or not. But if you look at that case, you know, she murdered her children by putting them in a car and driving it into a lake. She made them disappear, and yet she still confessed. Now, if you're going to kill your children, you're going to butcher them on your living room floor. You know, if you're going to murder your children, chances are you're going to do it in a way to where they disappear, or they vanish, or something.
And come, Rich, you need to study filicide. Andrea Yates drowned all her kids. Chris Watts tried to make his kids disappear into an oil well. But they like Diane Downs. They didn't make their kids disappear. They just fucking killed them. Name one case where a mother or a father has tried to make their kids totally disappear. Come on, Rich.
In this particular case, it was, I mean, it was pure rage. What killed those boys?
Absolutely, because FBI profiler Alan Brantley, he said there was a maximum of devastation and a minimum of property damage. He felt like the MOA, the method of attack, was so much different. You know, Darlie got slices. She didn't get straight down wounds into her body. She got slices. The boys got straight down wounds that were into their body. The method of attack was totally different. It was like somebody was fucking mad at the kids. Darlie got slices. They got stabs. Stabs.
Seen the autopsy photos. I've read the autopsy reports. I mean, that wasn't. I really don't even think that was premeditated in any way. That was rage. That was impulse and rage.
Thank you for saying that. We'll get back into that.
Yeah.
It's just, I just don't think with her mentality, she has no history of mental illness.
Okay, here we go. The no history of mental illness thing. She has no documented history of mental illness, Rich, because we got it out of Danelle that she was molested by her dad. Danelle's response to me asking her, did Dennis molest her, when she was 8 years old. At first, she told me a long time, I don't know anything about it, blah, blah, blah. But I know she does, and I know it's a question she can't answer. Okay, so what she finally said was, I'm not going to talk to you about what happened with Darlie because that didn't happen to me. So we got it out of her. There's no way around it. She knows that happened to Darlie and that did not happen to her. And she's not going to talk about what happened with Darlie because it did not happen to her. So we know, and I've known it the whole time. We know that Darlie has had to, according to her testimony, this testimony was damning for the defense. But when she said, that my father began to fondle me from age 8 on, the first time, I think I'd have to look at it, but I know it was continuous. I think the first time she said it was when she was 8, but her statement indicated that it was more than once. Right. And she did say, that she resented her mom for it. She told her mom they wouldn't do anything about it. So here's no history of mental illness, right? You have an 8-year-old child that's been introduced to some inappropriate sexual abuse at age 8. She did the right thing to tell her mother. Her mother did not take action. And it happened to her again. And in that time, they had more kids that she had to be around. If you recall correctly, Darlie had, she was 8 when it first happened. And she wrote in her diary around the age 25, 26. I think it was shortly before the murders. I don't know why Dennis did what he did to me. I don't know who hurt him. So that means that has been on her mind for all these years. Why did that man do that to me? And children that are victims of sexual abuse, they do need counseling. And this, so you could track her mental illness all the way back to that. And it wasn't a mental illness that she asked for. It was just one that went untreated.
None whatsoever.
There's none whatsoever, Rich. That's gone. Bye-bye. She is a victim of sexual abuse at the hands of her stepdad. You can no longer say she didn't have any mental illness problems. No, you can't do it. Or you can say it because you just sat there and said she had burns on her mouth. Come on, man.
Never been in trouble with the law. You got to remember, people that commit murders to this severity, they don't blink an eye, and they don't come back from that.
That's absolutely incorrect. I've got some true crime video up. James Spade. He was an engineer, very, very well educated, very proper individual, decorated war vet. I mean, everything in his background would show that he was an upstanding citizen. And I don't remember these two neighbors' name offhand. I think it was Gable. But these neighbors kept on messing with him and messing with him, and they were shoveling their snow off of their driveway onto his. And he asked him to stop doing that. And the guy was in the street going, fuck you, you're a pussy, and blah, 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 and I'll throw this wherever I want. And he was standing, the wife was out there doing it too. And James Spader turned around, went in his garage, and got a shotgun and killed both of them in the fucking street. Then he walked in the house and killed himself. This was an upstanding citizen, a very highly upstanding citizen that was sick of people's shit. Check it out on I think it's called Killing in the Name of, on my video. I've got the whole footage of all of it. It's all there. All of it. You see all of it. And then you'll see James Spade's background. I could go into more of people that had, a pretty clean background and just snap. There's a lot of them. But I can't go into it now. I'll just give you the James Spader.
And it's just simply not the case.
You don't know what is not the case because you just sat and said that you dealt with this person and that you're talking to him and you would never know it. You just said that about somebody, that they killed these people and stuff, and you said you would by talking to him you would never know it, and you're saying that it's not the case here. You don't know.
A journalist, I can't think of his name now, that said it's either she didn't do it or she's one of the best Hollywood actors Hollywood's ever known.
That was Skip Hollingsworth that said that.
Yeah.
And I think everything was about appearances for Darlie. Because if you really think about it, check this out. She's everything about it. Her eyes are fake. Her tits are fake. Her hair color is fake. It's all, let me put on for show, fake.
I mean, she just sounds so sweet and meek.
Well, yeah, and you know, I have regular correspondence with Darlie.
He hadn't been to see her yet.
She's an incredible writer. I enjoy
She ain't got nothing better to do with her time than write about how she didn't do this shit to people.
writing her. I enjoy getting letters from her. They're always positive. You know, it's not, oh, poor me.
Yeah, he's right about that because I've got letters from Darlie. And there she is.
Or this or that.
But she's very aware, okay? Darlie's very aware from the court days, the jail days, of what writing things down on paper and sending them out to the public means. That it's all under surveillance. She knows that. She knows that now. Every bit of it.
It's never like that at all. It's always positive. I got my garden started out here. What do you think of this weather? How's everybody doing in your family? Her concerns when she writes to me isn't necessarily about her case. Her concerns are, how are you doing?
How come her concerns aren't, can you help me find this killer? Fuck your garden. She's got somebody from the outside. Can you help me find this killer? Never.
Yeah.
You know what's going on good with your life, and she really does appreciate the letters that she gets. And I asked Darlie.
Every inmate loves getting letters. We all, as inmates, we like getting hearing from the outside. Makes our day.
One time I said, and I'd hate to know the hate mail she gets. She don't get any hate mail.
The reason that she doesn't get hate mail is because if people are writing in there threatening her, saying mean shit to her, she'll never know about it. She'll never see it. She'll never see it because the COs go through their mail. They literally have to check every letter that comes in. And people do get things in through the mail. I mean, they're very sneaky. And they also look at the letters. They're looking for prison codes. They're looking for code stuff. So, and if Darlie was to get letters and somebody was sending her hate mail and threatening her and saying shit like that to her, one, she wouldn't see it. And two, you'd get a visit from somebody about, hey, stop, you can't harass her. Can't do it. So Darlie Key finally told the truth because you won't get hate mail. My son's in there and people hate his guts. He ain't got one letter and he never will. Even on JPay. You're not going to see that.
She gets no hate mail.
Wow.
No inmate does.
Which I found that to be rather surprising.
I don't know why you found that to be rather surprising because you know, apparently you don't know that they're not going to allow that stuff to come to you in prison. The federal mail does not belong. That mail does not belong to that inmate. That mail belongs to the institution. They would not let her see it. What if they let a hate mail slip through to somebody and it sets them off in a bad fucking mood and they kill somebody or go off on another inmate? You'll never see hate mail. Never.
Yeah. I mean, if she didn't stay positive, can you imagine how she would be? Her mind, her emotions.
I couldn't imagine, begin to fathom. And it's the same with the family. You know, a lot of people say horrible things, about that family. Well, some of the members of that family I happen to know, and they have been always extremely respectful toward me, even if
Because you support Darlie.
they disagree with me about something. They're very respectful. They're very kind. I've never.
Rich, they did that with me too. I didn't know Dana and I didn't know Danelle, but Mama Darlie was very nice and respectful to me. Serilda was. They were when I supported.
Never had any problem. As a matter of fact, me and Darlie Key actually play a game online. She whoops my behind on it.
Why would they be mean to you, Rich? You're supporting Darlie. Why would they be anything but nice to you? I don't support Darlie. I used to. I don't support Darlie, and look what I've become. Look what that family has tried to make me become. Is that because they're kind to everybody?
Every time we play it, but it's kind of like this trivia strategy game that we play is actually really good at. As a matter of fact, the last letter I wrote to Darlie Lynn, I told her about it. But
he's calling her Darlie Lynn, and I used to do that as a supporter because you feel like a family to her. We always call her Darlie Lynn or Darlin. And when I came back as a non-supporter, I had to, I had to stop doing that because that's too personal. But as a supporter, I would call her Darlin or Darlie Lynn because that's what her mom calls her.
I feel really bad for that family. I mean, they're clearly victims.
They are victims of the murder. Yeah, I can't take that away. I'm not trying to. They are victims of this suffering.
And people, especially the non-supporters, they want to be non-supporters. They have that right. But my God, to be nailing on that family like that is, I mean, stop and think for a minute what, like Darlie Key, for example, has gone through. She has lost 2 grandchildren, and she might as well have just lost her daughter.
And she was selling media tried justice denied on eBay with it had books. It was a book that had pictures of Devin and Damon in the state they were found in. And Darlie Key was signing those and selling them for $25 a piece. That's the fact. We saw that.
Yes.
I can't even begin to imagine that. I have 2 grandchildren and I have 2 daughters. I couldn't imagine. I just couldn't.
Yeah, she's definitely a strong lady. I've watched her on interviews and things like that. Darlie's new boyfriend, the other Darren, I had a little run in with him like when I first started my channel. I mean, hey, this guy pops in my chat and says he's Darlie Brewster's boyfriend. Of course, I'm going to background check him
Guy's an idiot. I think I was there that day, CC.
before I let him on my channel. He got really upset about that. I just found it weird that he was, and this is no disrespect to BryanSt.John, but he was in BryanSt.John's chat and he is not a Darlie supporter. And this is supposed to be Darlie's boyfriend. So I guess that's irrelevant.
Are you referring to Darren Gross?
Yes, I am.
They're no longer
Very nasty to me in emails, and I'm a very respectful person.
He was very nasty. He had a terrible alcohol problem, and she broke up with him on Valentine's Day. Imagine that, man. Would you? I wouldn't be upset if somebody I could never touch broke up with me.
Person, but if you tell me you're dating Darlie, I got to look into it before I let you on my channel, which he never did come on.
He was.
They're no longer together.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm not going to get into the details, but only just for respect to the family. And
The respect of the family is that he was a fucking alcoholic. He was crazy. He was weird. And they didn't want her around him.
I've never had a verbal conversation with Darren Gross. I have talked with him a little bit on Facebook, but I've never, and then there was an interview that Terrell Foster did. I had a brief conversation with him in there. And we had planned on talking, but it just never transpired. And then it wasn't that long after that. Darlie Lynn kind of gave him the boot.
Well, I can tell you what kind of person he is. He told me that I blew my interview, that big things were getting ready to happen. So basically, and I sent the message to Darlie's friends that I talked with. Basically, he was trying to ride on Darlie's coattail.
Yeah, I know that you've interviewed Stephanie Hopkins and Danny. Both great ladies. I don't know Danny that well, but
Danny's a sweetheart. Danny Owen, she really is.
Stephanie, through Facebook and Messenger. She has some incredible podcasts on the case, which I'd recommend to anybody. It's under Free Darlie.
Rich, why would you recommend them to anybody? She gets the case all wrong, dude. Doesn't let anybody comment. Why? Well, you're only recommending because she supports. Now, you were around when I had to correct her. This is while she was going to see Darlie. I don't know if she does anymore. But, I had to correct her and let her know that the first responding officer was not named Gorsuch. It was Waddell. And you're sitting there, she's got things wrong, dude.
And YouTube, she really got some great information.
Why does he call it great information? Come on, Rich.
She did a spectacular job. I wrote her and told her about it as well. She really loves Darlie.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, yeah. Now, Rich does not like Stephanie Hopkins. He does not like her. Not at all.
Actually visits Darlie, and she can't stand the haters.
See, now he's calling us haters. Oops.
There was a time when, as far as haters go, I just kind of blew them off and moved them.
Why do you call them haters?
I'm going to tell you, some of those people get so personal, it is literally almost impossible to, brush them off to the side.
Really? Really? Like what Danelle did?
It gets real hard.
Yeah. You're saying that we do this, but I've got evidence that Darlie's sister does that.
And I have pretty much backed off of all the haters because there's just no communicating with most of them. Now I have.
Yeah.
Well, I know Pamela Collins. I'm not going to say she's a hater necessarily. She's a non-supporter.
Yeah, and he did an interview with her where they discussed the photographs in the crime case, and she got him so bad, caught him on everything wrong, that he deleted it, and he has not put it back up. Pam owned him, Pam owned him on the fact so bad that he removed the video. It's gone.
But I can actually have a civil conversation with her. We're very respectful when we talk. Same with BryanSt.John. Yeah. But I'm telling you, for the most part, most of those non-supporters, they are vicious.
But he's not giving any evidence of that, and I've got evidence of Danelle doing it now. So.
But it's the same on the support side too.
Yeah.
And then they get to the point where they get desperate because I think there's a lot of questions on both sides of the aisle, and then sometimes they tend to start making up stuff.
Rich. Like, I don't know. Waddell was asleep in his cruiser. That was on your show. The Force of the Knives was no, wait a minute. Let me see. The medical examiner said on the stand that Damon could have only lived a maximum of 9 minutes. And Danelle said on Ken Maines' show that Darlie's DNA was found on the outside of the sock. And if you listen to our interview with her, she doubled down on that and said, well, it was all over the outside of the sock. Those kinds of things, Rich?
Yeah.
There's just nothing good comes out of that. Nothing.
Yeah, nothing good comes out of lying, because especially when you do it to me, because I'll catch you.
So I'm kind of careful as who I have conversations with.
Now, he doesn't say anything about what a non-supporter made up lies. He doesn't do that. I wish CC would have asked him.
Something I was always being confused with is the sock in the alley.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest controversial part of the case.
Oh yeah, and even Mr. Maverick, I was wrong too, so I can't knock. But Mr. Maverick, he said, "Oh, she's doing a great job over there, outstanding." But in it, she says that the canine dog walked up to the sock and stood stationary. So, and that's how she knew that a car picked up the intruder. And Rich didn't correct it. I didn't. I always thought that a canine got the sock too. I always thought it was a canine that found the sock. But come to find out through arguing with Danelle, I found out something I didn't know about the case, that the dog didn't actually walk up to the sock, which is minute not to know, but you should know everything in the case before you make dumbass comments about how a dog stood stationary. I've never made any comments about what the dog did. I just felt like that it was a dog that found the sock. I didn't know it.
I don't think anybody really knows all the facts behind it. There's a whole lot of theories. Quite frankly, I'm not a big believer in putting theories out there because I don't want to be wrong.
You just did it.
If I'm going to put information out there, I want to know that it's accurate and true.
You just said she had burns on the inside of her mouth. You just said that. She had no burns on the inside of her mouth. None. And you tried to explain that she didn't have any on her skin, but the idea is to knock somebody out, Rich. If you bring something to knock her out, you have to cover her nose with it. Did you not think about that before you said that?
But I think there's a lot of questions about it. I mean, I've been at the road to your house. I mean, I only live about maybe 25, 30 minutes away, something range to Rowlett. I've been through the neighborhood. I know the development well. I've been to the house. I've been through the alley numerous times. I actually did a video on it.
Mm-hmm.
And
he just seems like the nicest guy ever.
I don't really know what to say about the sock.
Right.
I really just don't know what to say about the sock.
Here's what I'll say about it. Okay, they say that they found her DNA inside there in the sock that was found.
Okay, well, what they said that they found was either skin cells or saliva of Darlie Lynn. They didn't specify which one. They just said or, which I think is quite a huge range of possibilities. I mean, you're talking between skin cells and saliva. And if it is saliva, which let me just say this, I don't want to go real deep into this aspect, but there's a lot of stuff getting tested as we speak. The Innocence Project is doing really a good job.
This was 4 years ago. This is when they just picked him up. And he says they're doing a good job. You don't know what kind of job they're doing. They didn't say nothing.
I've sent them everything that I've had through somebody else. And, this stuff is getting looked into. But I think there's a big difference between, I mean, you can get skin cells on there from your face too, but the saliva is the key.
And he's not talking about whether it was on the inside or the outside yet. I want to see what he says.
If there is saliva on that sock, I think it's gonna tell a whole different story than what we know.
Well, her saliva on the sock wouldn't really mean anything, Rich, if you think about it.
Well, I was going to say, if it was skin cells, of course they would be there. If she done laundry, hasn't.
She did not do laundry that day. She did not do laundry that whole week. I want to see what he says to this.
Anybody ever done laundry and the socks inside out? You got to turn it.
Well, that's true, but Helena did a lot of their laundry.
Thank you for that.
Okay, see, I didn't know that.
He did not say that Helena testified that she had been doing laundry for last week. He just said she did a lot of it, but that's close enough.
Okay. Employed to come there and do odds and ends around the house. And I know laundry was one of her duties, but I don't.
Now, he fails to mention that laundry was not regular laundry. Darren said that he had a basket of socks or a box of socks in there that were worn and had a hole in them or something like that. And rather than throw them out, he would use them to clean tools and stuff. So it's not regular laundry. Think about it.
I don't know if she...
And that bag of socks, it was available right there for anybody. An intruder could have grabbed them real quick, or Darlie could have went in there and got one.
Did it that day or not? I'm pretty sure that
That's not speculation. That's testimony.
I mean, there was folded up laundry in the utility room when the murders occurred.
Yeah.
I can definitely tell you that. But where that sock is, and it's, I mean, I'll tell the story. It's kind of hard to tell it without showing. But in the state of Texas, there people are fence crazy down here. Everybody has a fence up. I mean, everybody has a fence up, especially in the Dallas area. Now, same is true in Rowlett and on Eagle Drive. Now, under Texas state law, every third house on any said given street, they have to have a walkthrough.
No.
Where there can be no fence in between houses, so in case there's emergency, there's fire, some kind of natural disaster, people can get in or out or whatever. Now, where that stock is right where a walkthrough is. So there was access from the front yards as well as the backyards.
All right, I'm gonna stop him right here. Okay, so I'm in the back alley. The sock was found right here, right where this arrow's at. The cam was up on the thing at the time. There is a walkthrough here, right? Just like Rich said, there's a walkthrough here. See that? You can go right across Eagle Drive, right there. So what I'm gonna do is this. I'm gonna show you something. Show you why that doesn't work. All right, it wants to go slow right now because I'm trying to film. Yeah. So my computer wants to do this to me. Yeah, we'll get around here sometime. I'll show you why that doesn't work. I think I'm going to. Doesn't want to move, of course. Okay. Oh man. Okay, here's the Routier's house. Second house, third house. One, two, three. So it'd be this one. For some reason. All right, here's that walkthrough right here. That's where I just came from. All right. Now think about this. I think that Rich is probably going to say that the intruder came out the front door, ran and got back in there and dropped that sock off, took off out that way, except this is Gorsuch's house. These are the windows that they testified that they were looking out when Waddell pulled up, and they saw Waddell bring him back in, Darren back into the house, right? But he also said when he pulled up in his drive that he got there, he just sat outside for a moment and just enjoyed the stars, a piece of quiet. He didn't hear anything. So you would think, and other police officers were coming in this way. Waddell came in this way up there at Linda Vista. So that would mean that the intruder that Darlie saw go out the back way, would have had to come out the front way and go 3 houses down and go through the alley. It doesn't work. Now, and while I'm here, I'm a burglar, right? I'm looking for a place to rob. Right? I can't see over this fence. Right? But if I could, I'd see the TV. I can't even see over this fence. Plus, it makes a bunch of noise. Right? I'm looking for a way in this house. And I'm just scoping the neighborhood for a way in this house. Bam! Right there. No fence, no nothing. Anywho, that was an hour with Rich.